one thing that I feel like I'm noticing, which I love about us going into one, I loved recording last episode, which is what I just said to you. But because our voices are both a little bit impacted, like I almost feel like it's a little bit sultry. Like I don't know if it's gonna sound like a dying duck or a sultry little moment. But I was like, as I started talking, I was like, okay, my voice is lower. This is how it is
we
now.
have a little rasp.
we have a little. Now, if you hear a cough, that's neither here nor there.
It's part of the fantasy.
Yeah, so if you hear us being very sultry today, it's because we're both under the weather.
We're recovering. Yeah.
We're recovering. Also, nothing will stop us from talking about books ever, literally ever.
I know.
So
not even distance, excited. Nothing.
Nope. I don't care how, Yarlin, you're not getting away from me. Yarlin moves. No way you're getting away from me, girl.
Hi, I'm Yarlin.
And I'm Katie.
And this is Fae and Fables, a podcast hosted by two mental health counselors who take a psych deep dive into your favorite fantasy and romantasy books. Today, we are talking about Queen of Shadows Part 2, the Throne of Glass series, Book 5.
Yes, I am so excited. We're in, that little song that's like, we're in the thick of it or something. I just feel like we're in the thick of it, and
for sure.
I love it. I love the thick of it. So I'm here and I'm ready.
Yeah, we're reaching the last couple of books, and it's getting intense for sure.
Oh yeah. I'm fired up.
I know, I'm so excited. So before we get into our plots and thoughts, we want to get into our disclaimers and spoiler warnings. So please note this episode contains spoilers for books 1 through 5 of the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J Maas, including Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, Assassin's Blade, and Queen of Shadows. Additionally, several potentially triggering themes are discussed, including discussions of enslavement, colonization, violence and gore, injury, substance abuse, death, assault, war, torture, suicidality, possession, and imprisonment. Explicit language and adult content including discussions of sex work and sexual content are included in this episode. So because of those impactful themes, we want to make sure that we have our mental health disclaimer. This podcast is hosted by two licensed mental health counselors, but it should not be used to diagnose, treat, or address any individual mental health concerns or conditions. The knowledge, opinions, and experiences we express related to mental health are our own and should not be applied as treatment. This is just for fun. If you feel like you need mental health treatment, please seek out your own individualized mental health care. So, the order of events of our episodes, we go into rankings and ratings, which we did already in part 1, but we will kind of overview what our rankings and ratings were. So that's where we provide our ratings for the book. We have our plots and thoughts analysis, where we'll pick up where we left off from part 1. Katie will lead us through those events of the book itself, and then I will guide us better in understanding the psychology of the characters along the way. We have our teehee moments in this episode. We're so excited to talk about that.
Oh, yes.
For the second half of the book. And then we do some more therapy deep dive where I'll expand out into real world context and some other character psychoanalysis and lead our exploration of other mental health concepts. We have our future thoughts and theories in this one, which will probably most come from me because Katie already knows what happens.
Oh, yes.
And then we do our just final reminders and social media shout outs.
Yeah, I'm so excited to hear what your theories for the future are. I am always excited to hear them. But yeah, I as it ramps up here, I'm getting more and more excited for that. So as Yarlin mentioned, last time we went over our rankings and ratings, and we're not going to go into the whole thing, but just as a quick reminder, Yarlin was at a 4-star rating for the book overall with a 2-star chili pepper rating, and I shockingly was at a 5-star rating, not shockingly, with a 2-star or a 2 chili pepper rating for spice level, which the two the two, as we discussed, is we're ramping up here. We are ramping up. So excited to get into those teehee moments now that we have a crop of them.
Yes, we
So
do.
yes, yeah, I'm thinking about a couple of them, but we'll save it for later. So as I usually like to do, I'm following the plot lines of several characters kind of in one bunch, and then we're going to follow a couple of the other characters. In the first bunch of characters, we have Aelin, Rowan, Kale, and Adian, and then in the other bunch, we have Manon and Alid. So we're kind of following a couple of different things. Also, we're starting to get crossover between those plot lines, so I'm going to do my best to delineate those. And we're going to do our best here. So at the top of page, I think it's like 390 or 391, because we're that specific.
Yeah.
We find Aelin and friends, which is Aelin and everybody else I mentioned, still in Rifthold. And they are at the cusp of their schemes regarding how to blow up the obsidian clock tower that's looming over Rifthold and that is holding magic back. They're trying to free magic so that Aelin and friends can fuck shit up, basically. And they are dealing with the repercussions of Arobyn's death, which one of them has to do with Lysandra, and I will get into it here in a second. But Arobyn, if you think he's done scheming just because he's dead, no, false. I still, my hatred for Arobyn burns like the fire of 1,000 suns. So Aelin, Rowan, Kale, Nezrin, who is Kale's sort of second in command, and Adian go down to the catacombs underneath what used to be the vaults. If you remember, Aelin destroyed the vaults after she fought in there and went to go get the pits. It was a whole scheme. And something that Aelin happens to know is that there used to be a guy within the vaults who had a secret stash of hellfire in the catacombs that are even deeper than the vaults. So, of course, she doesn't tell anybody until they're there and they're like, why are we here? What are we doing? And she's got her own schemes. But eventually, everybody figures out that they're going to use this hellfire to take out the obsidian clock tower. And it's a little bit like if you've watched Game of Thrones, like Dragonfire, when they blow up the I think it's called the keep or something in King's Landing. It acts a little bit like that. It's highly volatile.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
And it was like it was like a green kind of like fire looking thing. It was so cool.
It's and that's the thing. It's not regular fire. It's highly explosive, highly volatile fire. And everybody knows this, so they're all terrified of the stuff. But while they're down there looking for this, they stumble upon something called the Sin Eater's Temple, which is this ancient temple where all of these bones of these dead people are. And inscribed in the bones are the sins of the people as they lived. So it'll say like, I killed my brother and no one ever found out. Or like the whole idea is that the Sin Eater takes on the sins of the people who go there. And that is also where they find the dying confession of one Gavin Haviliard, who was married to Elena, who is the daughter of Brannon, who is the line of Aelin. So there's a lot of connections here historically. And they find out, because the whole mythology is that they killed Erewhon 500 years ago and they banished him from the land permanently. They find out that this is not true. They have not killed Erewhon. They have contained him within mountains called the Black Mountains. In the Old Fae language, the word for Black Mountains is Morath. So everybody has a little bit of a freak out moment because everybody knows where Morath is. That's where Duke Parrington and Vernon Lockin have been scheming, where bad things have been happening that no one can figure out. And they figure out that Duke Parrington and the King of Adarlan are going to unleash Erewhon from Morath. They're going to go down into the mountain, unleash him into the world. And that's where like I don't know about you, but like I got chills. I was like, oh my God. Because
Yeah.
you realize, oh shit, we're not nearly as safe as we thought we were in this world.
Yeah, I definitely love the visualization of like going down into the cat. I'd almost pictured like the catacombs or something like that, where it's like you see all like the bones of all
Mm-hmm.
the and then just can imagine what it looks like seeing just all the sins written down there and just uncovering that. It was so cool.
Oh yeah. It's so I went to Italy I think 2 summers ago, and I did a catacombs tour, and
Mm.
they had one catacomb that they decorated with the bones of the monks that were buried in there. So like the walls were covered in like stylized bone mosaics.
Oh my
I kind of
gosh.
yeah, it was very cool. And that's kind of what I pictured. I'm sure it
Yeah.
was less savory even than that, because it was supposed it's like very hallowed like ground and such. But I
Yeah.
just the visuals of the catacombs and this knowledge that they're finding in the Sin Eater's temple, it was just spooky and cool. I
Yeah.
liked
I
it.
I definitely envision like the Paris catacombs that you hear so many like
Yes.
stories about, that like people live down there, people do like raves or something down there. It's really like weird for sure. There's like, what would you call it? Like mole people, or just like
Man, I don't
like
know.
people who just live underground or something. But it's very, or like
I
people
do
who
not
just
know
like live
about
there.
this. I do
Yeah.
not know about this. Okay,
Yeah.
I've got some googling to do when we finish recording this, because this is news to me. I knew about the
Yeah.
Paris catacombs. I did not know about any of the lore of the
Yeah.
catacombs.
Well,
Okay.
this could be part fantasy, part conspiracy podcast.
we start doing podcasts about cryptids. We're like Mothman, Bigfoot.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Love that.
Well, they don't find Mothman or Bigfoot or anybody else down there. Just Bones and Gavin's confession.
Yeah.
Um and
Missed
as
opportunity.
yeah.
There should have been some
Sarah J
type of
Maas had
creature in there.
Sarah J Maas had an opportunity to have just Mothman creeping in the corner. She didn't take it, which is her decision, but maybe we'll write a fanfic about that, about Mothman in the
That
catacombs.
would be so cool. Someone who just like keeps you down there and has like a 10-inch tail.
Oh my I did not know where that was going.
He
I was
keeps
so
you in a prison made of
Oh my
bones,
oh
like a
my
jail cell, and
Okay.
you have to do some favors to get out of there.
Oh my God.
It's all up here.
Yarlin told me this morning I should take some Sudafed. Is the Sudafed doing something to you, girl?
Well,
that was so you got a whole story there. I love it. That was hilarious. So that almost took me out. So as they're scheming about taking out the clock tower, they're working on thinking about where the other word keys might be. Things start heating up between Rowan and Aelin. And if you remember, we left them romantically last. She had tried to kiss him, and he said, "Don't touch me like that." And Aelin, as I would be, felt very rejected. And when we see from Rowan's perspective, he was just a little overwhelmed. He was taken by surprise. Guy's been through a lot. He lost his mate. So if you think from his perspective, it makes some sense. But she was feeling a little bit butthurt. Yeah. Well, Rowan does Aelin and everyone else a favor, and he explains himself and his thinking. He uses his words to communicate with her his experience, and he basically says, I just didn't expect you to make the first move like that, and it scared me because I really care about you, and that scares me, and I feel kind of guilty. So he explains his feelings, which seems to help a lot.
I like that.
Yeah, it's almost like if you talk about your feelings and communicate them to others, it clears up any confusion that might be there.
Yeah, I think something like that might work.
Yeah. We've seen that work a time or two. And once they've cleared the air, and he's like, no, I'm kind of into you. And she's like, well, I'm really into you. That's when they start touching. That's when they start touching. And Aelin does something that like I think is so cool for who Rowan is and their relationship. She bares her throat to him, which is like this very animalistic. Like, I am
Yes.
showing you the most vulnerable part of me, and she says, I would let no one else near my throat like this. And he like skates his little fangs along her throat a little bit, and then he makes a promise to her. He's like, where we are right now, I can't properly do what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
We need more space because I'm gonna make you moan real loud when I get you to myself. And it's like, oh, sir,
I
sir.
hope he keeps that promise.
He better. You don't. Here's the thing: you don't make a promise like that and then
Yeah.
not follow through.
Yeah. He
Um,
hyped it up, so he better show
yeah,
up.
uh, yep, absolutely, follow through. Now, for me personally, I am a little bit aggravated with the like, we have to have the right moment and the right time and the right place. Like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Like, you own this warehouse apartment. If anybody hears you, it's their prerogative to like
Yeah.
stay or leave. I don't know. But they want to be classy and whatever. I get that. Be classy, do you.
But
Um
also, is it a little bit like overly explained that like we're just gonna make so much noise that everyone is gonna hear us? It's like, what if it doesn't actually become this like roar type of
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
and you guys can still do what you got to do?
Yeah, like what if you make that a game? Like,
Like are
we're gonna do our
like
thing, but we have to be quiet. Like, that could be sexy, you know? They had a
Yeah,
lot of options, and they chose, we need the perfect place and time and moment to do this, and
right.
nothing less than perfect we will accept. And I'm just like,
And that's what makes it so YA, because
oh yeah.
it's like almost like this like fantasized or idealized way of like having sex. But
Yeah. I think, I mean, I get it builds tension. It whatever,
yeah.
like, it's the slow burn, and let's I'm saying to a YA book, let's all be adults here. And I wonder if Sarah J Maas, as she goes through the books,
Mm.
was like, I kind of want to make this an adult series. I think and I can't remember if I've heard this somewhere, if it was just a thought, but I know that, or I think I know that A Court of Thorns and Roses was supposed to start as a YA series, and she
Mm.
turned it into an adult series just because she kind of couldn't forward the plot without it.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
wonder if she had similar feelings, because even if you look at like the first Throne of Glass book, Aelin will always make a rude gesture or swear. And then by these books, they're saying shit. They're like
Yeah.
that pretense has kind of dropped. So I'm imagining that Sarah J Maas might have been struggling with like, how much do I want
Yeah.
to make a
And
sex a part of this?
also, I think you have to imagine that the characters are getting older, even if they are
Mm,
like Fae or like whatever. So you can only hold that innocence or like the lack of detail for so long. But I don't
mm.
know, you know?
Yeah. Well, for now, Aelin and Rowan say, we will keep our chastity, and we put our pinkies up and we sip our tea and we wait for them to hopefully decide that sometime is right between now and literally forever. So
Okay.
while they're getting a little touchy, they're getting a little like, we want to do stuff but we can't because propriety. Evangeline shows up to the warehouse apartment absolutely bereft. She's crying, she's beside herself, and she tells them that the king of Adarlan's men took Lysandra because Arabin Hamel put in his will that if he should die, the king of Adarlan should know of her lineage and should know that she is a shifter, which in a lot of kingdoms is like a highly prized person
Like
to have.
magic. Yeah.
Yeah, because now I could shift into anything or anyone. They're a perfect spy. They're highly coveted. So Arabin, one last fuck you from Arabin, even when he's dead. Um and that that is where we kind of discover the extent of Arabin's knowledge of like a lot of people in this story. He was he just knew too much about too many people. Um and so because Lysandra is a part of the A team now, and Aelin and Lysandra are BFFs, they gotta go get her. There's no question about it. So
Yeah.
Kale, Nezrin, Adian, Rowan, and Aelin go to rescue her, and they decide that the best point to rescue her is in the handoff between the King of Adarlan, who currently has Lysandra, and the Iron Teeth Witches. She's being transported to Morath with the Iron Teeth Witches to be used for some nefarious purpose by Duke Parrington and Lord Locken. And so what we see is that Manon and her 13 are going to be a part of that envoy. And I'm going to talk about what this whole event looks like from their perspective. But right now, I'm going to, like, from Aelin and Friends' perspective, take you through the events of what happens next. So they decide that Kale and Nezrin are going to create a distraction. Aelin and Rowan are going to slip into the prison cart that's carrying Lysandra, and they're just going to hightail it. They just want to get Lysandra and go. They have no other prerogative other than to make sure she gets out of there. Everything's going swimmingly. Distraction activated. Aelin and Rowan get Lysandra. They're all headed to the woods. And Kale, idiot Westfall, takes it upon himself that now is the time that he's got to kill Dorian. He's finally figured out that Dorian's probably in pain for being possessed by this Valg, and now's the time to kill him. When literally everyone's there. The King of Adarlan, all the witches, everybody's fucking present. Yeah. That is the time to kill Dorian.
I don't know if Kale knows how to make one good decision, to be honest.
At this point, like, Queen of Shadows Kale is my least favorite Kale. He's my least favorite Kale ever. And he just, it seems like he's just id. He's just pure id. He's just acting off of whatever fucking feeling he has. And it's like, can you stop and just think for a second about what this might do?
Others, you know?
Consult with others, maybe get some feedback about whether this is a good idea or not. Maybe take in the what you're seeing before you, even if you had the plan, and go, 13 witches plus, the matrons there, other, like, lots of witches, lots of Kingsguard, and the King of Adarlan. Right. Maybe later. Maybe I should do this later, but no. He flies off on a corn chip, and he runs to go kill Dorian, but can't even get to Dorian, and ends up in front of Manon and the 13. Runs the wrong way, and ends up with Manon and the 13. And
this guy.
Yeah, literally. And now he's about to die. Manon's, like, got him by the throat or the lapels or whatever, and it's about to go down. Aelin figures out that Kale has, like, taken a wrong turn, and she rolls up just as he's about to get really fucked up. And so Aelin, like us, the reader, rolls her eyes and is like, Jesus Christ, Kale. Like, now I gotta save your dumbass. And so she's talking to Manon and trying to distract her. She's, like, trying to figure out how this is all going to go down. And to distract Manon and the 13, she tells her that she killed Baba Yellowlegs, and she shows Manon and the 13 the scars of Baba Yellowlegs' nails on her collarbone. Also, fun fact, witches can smell if you've killed a witch. So they can smell that she's a witch killer, and then they see the claw marks from Baba Yellowlegs. And as Aelin intended, she sees red, and she's like, you're fucking going down. Which I kind of, I get that in witch society, killing a witch is, like, a really bad thing, but also you don't like the Yellowlegs. So right. I'm like, Manon, did she not, like, solve a problem for you, kind of. I don't know.
Yeah, I was a little confused by that because I really did think, they are, the back beaks are against like the yellow legs and like whatever. So I was definitely surprised that she had that type of reaction, but maybe almost felt threatened that, hey, she killed Baba Yellow Legs, so maybe one of us can be next type of thing.
Yeah. I think that if we look into her psychology, I think that plays a big role. Like, if you're threatening which kind, and if you're an
Right.
outsider and you're threatening which kind, then you're a threat. I also think the like witch society roles are still really a big thing for Manon, and she that's just a law that, like, if you kill a witch, you're a witch killer and you're going down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I even wonder if it wasn't even a calculation, and it was just like, I should feel bad about this. So anyway,
Right.
Manon's all butthurt, and butthurt's not even the right word. It's like she's furious, and Manon and Aelin fight, which I kind of love. I'm like, two power players in this series,
Mm-hmm.
two badass ladies who are just going at it, and uh Asterin and the other 13 are trying to back up Manon by firing these arrows. And the culmination of their fight happens at this temple. And it's like, there's one side of the land, there's a bridge, there's a tiny temple on a tiny, like, column of island, and then another rope bridge, and then the other side of the land where Aelin and friends are trying to go. So as Astrid is trying to fire arrows and kill Aelin as she's fighting Manon, Rowan takes an arrow for Aelin, and he's badly injured because he can't heal himself with his magic. He ends up being okay, but the really interesting thing the interesting part about this moment for me is that she tells him, like, go, and he's like, I'm not leaving you. And then she uses the blood bond for the first time. She's never used the blood bond to make him do anything, and for the first time she uses that blood bond and she says, run. And it like twangs through him, and then he has to run. And
Yeah.
I thought, like, oh my god, what an intense moment for Rowan to have someone use the blood bond like that. But
Yeah.
um
And feel like out of his own control.
yes. But they don't have time right now to, like, go into it. Because Manon and Aelin are still fighting. And they're fighting on this little temple island, but the temple island is not that secure. It's kind of rickety and it's all coming apart. And Aelin crashes some of this temple material onto Manon and goes to run for the bridge to say, like, all right, fuck you, I'm out. But Asterin screams Manon's name, like, such pain, screams her name, and Aelin stops. She can feel, and you'll notice that across these books, at several different moments for different characters, that they talk about a thread that tugs, a thread of fate that's tugging at them. And so Aelin feels a thread of fate tug at her and tell her, go help Manon and make sure she lives. And so, against all reason, Manon or Aelin goes to Manon, helps her out of the rubble, and helps her across the bridge. Leaves her on the other side once it's safe. Like, she doesn't check that she's uninjured or anything. It's not that she cares about her a whole lot, but she's just like, I feel the tug of fate. I got to make sure you're alive. Drop you off and run. And that is the culmination of their fight.
Yeah, and I feel like that was such a moment of like her following her gut feeling or like that tug of fate to make her decision to save her. Because, it's like in that moment you got to use some quick decision making skills in order to, that could be like 1 second away for the difference, but ultimately this feels like Aelin, the queen, saving a life versus her previous assassin nature, where she wouldn't have even like looks back for sure.
Yeah. I love that you highlight this because I think there are other times that I can track where Aelin does something that I don't quite understand or agree with. And I wonder if even as an assassin when she, because I don't think she would say it as a tug of fate as much when she was assassin. um but do you remember when Ansel of Briarcliff, that whole thing in Assassin's Blade, and she like let Ansel go and she gave her sword back, and
Oh
I
yeah.
remember us being like, why the hell would you do that? Which I stand by, like, why the hell would you do that? But I wonder if this is the intuitive side of Aelin, which is saying, like, I'm not sure why I feel the way I do. I'm not really sure why I'm helping this person, but I feel some sort of pull to do so. And I think in some ways, this is a really good example of how, like, sometimes you have to make decisions based on intuition or a gut feeling.
Yeah.
And how that could be just as powerful as, you know, a decision that you make with careful consideration. There are times for both. There are some decisions that should have careful consideration, but in this case, like you highlighted, there was no time to like sit
Yeah.
down and make a pros and cons chart. She just had to go with her intuition. And I mean, in this case, I love Manon as a character, so I'm really glad that she did.
Yeah.
um
I do like her.
Oh yeah, Manon. I love Manon. But it. I think this is one of those times where she just had to follow her gut, and I'm glad she did in this time around. So now that Kale is gotten in line and we have everybody, and nobody now that we're all here, they head on back to Rifthold, and there was such a cute moment where Lysander was like, "You came for me," and they were all
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, girl, of course we're gonna come for you," and it was like the first time in her life anybody had showed up for her in that way, so it was just really cute. I liked it a lot. But Aelin and friends head back to Rifthold, and in the process of Kale being saved by Aelin, Kale witnesses Dorian's behavior, like this whole he decides to kill him thing, and it changes his mind about Dorian, but it also changes his mind about Aelin. He sees what Aelin sees, and all of a sudden he goes, maybe Aelin isn't that bad, and maybe I'm in the wrong. Wow. Great insight, Kale.
Wow. Yeah.
Such a detective you are. What we all have known for this entire effing book, you have just figured out. Welcome. Welcome to the party.
He's been two in his head, you know.
Yeah.
He clearly has talked about him hating himself. So his insight is not there. He's not
You're
able to
using
be
you're
self-aware.
using empathy right now, and
Yeah, because we do
I'm
believe in empathy.
yeah,
So
we do. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But Kale, come on. Okay, we're going to get in empathy mode. Kale's learning a lot about himself. He's learning how to love himself. He's learning how to not be so short sighted and take on new perspectives. See, there we go. You helped me reframe it in a
thank
nicer
you.
way.
Yeah.
But also,
Yeah.
F you, Kale. Anyway, in in repayment for Aelin saving Manon's life, because as soon as Aelin saves Manon is like, I now have a life debt to you. And she's dead set on repaying that life debt. And I'll get more into it when we hit Manon's perspective. But what's important to know about this Aelin's side of the story is that she decides to send a message to Aelin. And from Manon's perspective, she discovers that Dorian is still in there. He's fighting. It's not going well, but he's in there. So Manon says, "Okay, I got to make sure that that she calls her the witch killer. I got to make sure the witch killer knows that Dorian's in there, and
Yeah.
essentially save Dorian's life from Aelin." So she and Asterin fly into Rifthold, and they take Valg blood and they paint along the walls that it says witch killer, the human still lives, or he's still in there, something to that effect.
Yeah.
And this blows Aelin and Kale's minds. They're
Yeah.
like, I mean, rightfully, they are ecstatic. It's a confirmation, and they know it's from Manon, and they saw her with Dorian. Like, they know that she's being truthful, and I think it really is powerful for them to hear that there's a chance for Dorian.
Yeah, and I love seeing this. I mean, aside from it being almost like a life debt type of thing, it's like the emergence of an alliance that now Aelin has with Manon, maybe even the witches in the future. So it's like now she can see that based off that good decision that she made, she now has this connection and was able to have hope that she can have her friend back. So
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, same. And I think and we'll get into this more with Manon's perspective, but I think it marks a change for Manon. There would have been, it's enough within witch thinking that she can still make it work, but it certainly is a divergence from what I think the matron would want her to do. So I think the threads of fate tugging at this, you can pretty immediately start to see why maybe that was the way it was. So they have Lysandra back. They've got the Hellfire. Everything's in place, and they are about as ready as they're ever going to be to take this tower down. There's just they're all scared. They're like, there's 50 ways this could go wrong, but this is as good as it's going to get. So their plan is that Rowan and Adian are going to put the Hellfire under the tower. So they're like, and I pictured some, like, it looked a little silly in my mind. They're carrying these like giant jugs of Hellfire, like so carefully, like they're like,
can't spill it.
No, go very closely. And Rowan's like, don't trip over that rock. And Adian's like, dude, I got it, thanks. Like they're having their own little back and forth in the sewers. So what no one counted for was the fact that Rowan's full Fae and Adian's half Fae blood would react negatively to the Obsidian Tower itself. That they seem to react worse to the Obsidian Tower than a human might. So they're going to put the Hellfire under the tower, and immediately they start like bleeding out of their nose. They're like, physically it impacts them really powerfully, and they just have to put the Hellfire down and get a fuse wire running out of the tower and far enough away that they can light it and run. And if you're thinking, oh, that seems like a tough thing to try to do, like, already, that's a really hard thing. Well, add on top of that the fact that all of a sudden the Valg descend upon them. So not only are they physically weakened a lot, they're trying to run this, they're handling Hellfire, which is incredibly dangerous. They're trying to get far enough away to escape. Valg roll up. And it's looking really bad for a second. There's too many Valg, they're too weakened. However, surprisingly, hero of the moment, Lorcan. Lorcan rolls up to save them. And if you think about it, some of Lorcan's goals align with the groups, some of them don't. So he has his reasons. But Lorcan rolls up, starts fighting. That helps, but things are still like chancy. And then Lysandra rolls up. So it's Adian and Rowan putting Hellfire. Things are going bad. Lorcan rolls up. Tower explodes. Lysandra rolls up in her snow leopard form, and so cool. And then they work it out. In the middle of that, so if we go back in time just a little bit, pre-tower blowing up, Aelin and Kale, their part of the plan is that they're going into the castle. Aelin is adopting the persona of Selena, and she is pretending that she has captured Kale. That, because if you think about it, in the eyes of the King of Outerland, Selena went off to Wendelin to kill the king and prince, and he hasn't seen her again. Like, and he hasn't seen Aelin running around town, so there's a chance that he still thinks that Aelin is Selena. So she rolls up with Kale and shackles, and they get taken to the king. And they just have to stall long enough for Rowan and Adian to blow up the tower and set magic free. But what we both know, and what the reader knows, is that Adian and Rowan are having a hell of a time, and it's not going well down there. So the time is getting longer and longer. They're supposed to blow it up at noon. It's past noon, and she's out of stalling time. And the King of Adarlan, I don't think super surprisingly, knows that she's Aelin. He's like, I see your facade thing. You could stop pretending. I know you're Aelin. Let's go. And he basically calls in Dorian, who is possessed, and sicks Dorian on her. And Kale says, I'm going to take on the king. And he knows he has no shot. Like, magicless. He's just a human dude. But he's like, I'm going to buy you as much time as I can by distracting the king. And you take on Dorian. Pretty immediately, the King of Adarlan blasts Kale with dark magic. And it doesn't kill him, but it does paralyze him. And we'll get into that later. But all you know at this point is he's been blasted by the magic. Aelin starts running, and she's diving, dodging, dipping, and dodging everywhere. And they're going up to the glass towers and the glass bridges of Rifthold Castle. And in the midst of their struggle, she secretly puts Athrel's ring onto Dorian's finger. She lets him get close enough to like really hurt her, but she puts Athrel's ring on Dorian's finger. And what Athrel's ring does is it's immune to the powers of the Valg. So now he's got the immunity ring on his finger and a Valg inside him. And the Valg's freaking out about it. And it creates just enough of a crack in between the Valg Prince and Dorian to make a little bit of doubt. Like, it's just enough to slow things down. And that is when the tower explodes. And now magic is free. And Aelin lights up, Rowan's lighting up, everybody's lighting up with their magic. And now Dorian and Aelin are fighting with magic. However, Dorian manages to bust out from Valve control with the help of Athrel's ring. Yeah, Dorian. And with his control, rips off. He like hulks out, and he rips off that Wordstone collar. And it's like, I get chills even just talking about it. Like, go Dorian. Poor guy has just been going through it, and he finally has some autonomy. He rips that Wordstone collar off. Yes, Dorian, take your power back. Do it. And what's even more interesting, or I guess it added to the interesting things that are unfolding in this event, is that Aelin and Dorian then join hands and forces. They combine their magic, and they fight the King of Adarlan. And when they combine their magic, their power together is crazy. It's I think they talk about it as if it's even like immortal or godlike. When their powers are put together, it's insane. And so, because they got like Power 5000 rolling everywhere, the King of Adarlan's ring breaks, and suddenly he is human, but deteriorating. Like and what you learn is, or what the king says has been happening, is that Duke Parrington is actually Erewhon. Erewhon's already out. Cat's out of the bag already. And that the king himself has been possessed by one of Erewhon's cronies since before Dorian was born. And has been fighting for control this whole time. And he couldn't fight most of what this Valg was doing in him and through him, but he wrested just enough control to stop magic. The reason magic stopped was to protect Dorian. And because he knew that Dorian had power and that Erewhon would use it, he stopped magic with the towers and has been keeping the secret of the towers from the Valg inside him ever since. But because he was protecting that, he couldn't really stop any of the other horrible things that the king was that the Valg was doing through him. We also find out, so in Heir of Fire, Aelin remembers that the King of Adarlan had visited her as a child and tried to get into her mind. We learn that while the King of Adarlan was there, and partly the Valg was there to like fuck things up, but the real king inside of him, the person, was trying to go to Terrasen all those years ago to have Aelin burn the Valg out from inside him. And you remember that Aelin starts to use her firepower in response to this like digging in her mind, and then her parents stop her because they're scared. And so his side of the story is like, I tried to get you to like burn this Valg out of me, but I couldn't make it happen. And so he's saying all this tearfully, and he's looking at Dorian with a whole different like face and voice. It's his face, but like the facial expressions, the voice. And Aelin and Dorian don't know in that moment whether to believe him or not. It's also pretty clear that the human is probably going to die because he's had this Valg in him for so long. But in that moment, Dorian's just rageful because of all of the things he's been made to do all these months. And Dorian kills his dad and explodes the glass castle. It literally, the entire glass part of the castle sitting over the old stone one explodes into 1,000,000 shards. And Aelin and Dorian go flying, and everything, and Rowan's helping them by catching them. And it's a wild scene to try to picture. But at the very sort of end of this explosion, Aelin uses her fire magic to turn all of the glass shards into a glass wall around the castle. So it's like this big molten glass wall that she's formed to keep the glass from going and hurting people in Rifthold. And once the glass castle is exploded, Dorian's like passed out. He's used all the magic he could muster. Everyone's tired, but threat is obliterated. Obsidian Tower obliterated. She goes to the people of Rifthold. She makes a little door through the glass wall, and she goes out to the people of Rifthold, and she's like, "Listen, your king is fine. This city's mine for now. He's resting, so this shit's mine. Don't fuck around. There will be no enslavement. There will be no bullshit. Behave, be civil, and when your king's ready to talk to you about all this, he'll come out here and address you himself. But until then, I'm watching you, and I will beat your ass if you make any fucking trouble." And like, she's not fucking around. Like, she just chastises them all. She's like, behave, relax, give us 10 seconds to regroup before you start doing shit. And then she goes into the castle and she takes a nap for 3 days because she's so tired and she used a lot of her magic. So Dorian and Aelin, they sleep for 3 days, and you'll see throughout the story that if you use too much magic, there's like a magic-induced sleep. Like, you can't help it. There's no waking up from it. There's no, like, all you could do is sleep.
Yeah, and I was trying to picture if it was similar, like in like Fourth Wing with that one dragon.
Oh yes, yep. It seems like that. Like, they just use so much of their power.
Yeah, and energy that you need to literally recuperate.
Yeah, and it's talked about kind of a couple of times in the book. It's like the body just shuts down. The body can't take it anymore. So they go into basically a magic-induced sleep, and Rowan is watching over her during that time, and all he wants to do is talk to her. He's like, "Are you okay? What's happening?"
He's pacing back and forth. He's like, "I don't know what to do."
He's like, I'm and now his magic is back. His healing abilities are back. So he's like, "What are we doing? What's happening?" And when she wakes up, they debrief about everything that's happened and they connect and they have a sweet little kiss. They just kiss. And because now, apparently, now's not the time or place. They could die any day, but now's not the time or place.
It's never the time or place.
It never is. Not even in a castle room. Not even in a room.
I don't know what type of setting they want at this point.
I don't know exactly what it is you're looking for, but if it's not in a bougie ass room in a castle, I don't know how to help you. So
it's soundproofed. Use your magic. Soundproof it.
That all things that I would have tried, you know what I mean, to secure the premises. I don't know. So they just kiss. And Aelin and Dorian have their first convo. Dorian obviously is very emotionally raw. And Aelin is really supportive of him. She's very gentle with him and you know, supports him emotionally, lets him know that like she's on his side. Like she's like, I'm here, you know, we've got you. And Dorian, I think, is just at the tip of the iceberg of being able to process everything that's happened throughout his vowed possession. He saw so many horrible things that he can half remember and half not, and the Valg made him feel as the Valg feasted on others' misery. So there's this weird line crossing. He hates the misery of others, but the Valg loved it. And it's like, where do I start in the Valg? Like, where do I end and the Valg begins? So there's a lot of guilt, I think, there for him.
Yeah, and it's, if you can only imagine what that decision that he had to do, it's like after killing his father, obviously there's a lot of feelings of grief, of anger, and just that emotional impact of what needed to be done. And then also the guilt of all the things he did while possessed by the Valg is doing a number on him for sure. Like he will definitely need some time to process and accept that he was out of control for all of that. And, it wasn't his doing, but it's still difficult to see all that his body held and did, so.
Yes. The part of like what his body is holding, there's things that are outside of his conscious memory, but that doesn't mean that his body doesn't remember. And there's a lot of great like trauma informed literature out there about the kinds of things that our bodies store, even if we don't have a cognitive memory of it, or the front part of our brain, our frontal lobe hasn't made a memory of it. The lower brain structures and our bodies are also storing memories. And so he like, if he were a client, I'd be like, he is just at the start of like a very potentially impactful journey of trying to process all that's happened to him and try to make meaning out of it and decide how he wants to cope and move forward. So he's going through it
for sure.
So Dorian then goes to talk to Kale. So Dorian's having a lot of important conversations when he wakes up, and we find out that in the magic blast, the dark blast of magic that the King of Adarlan threw at Kale, that his legs are paralyzed. That something has happened with that magic, and his legs are no longer operational. And Dorian tells Kale and Nezrin to go to the southern continent, to the Torre Cesme. If you remember from Irene's perspective, she was heading to the Torre Cesme.
Yes.
To go there for Kale to be healed. And Dale, which is Dorian and Kale mixed together. Good old Dale. Dorian appoints him as Hand of the King and Nezrin as Captain of the Guard. He basically says to them, we got a lot of work to do, and I need you two to be at your best. So go to the southern continent, get healed up, and come back when you're ready to like build a kingdom with me. And that is where we leave Aelin and friends. Well, there's one more thing. They travel from Rifthold. Dorian stays in Rifthold, but Aelin, Adian, and Rowan traveled and they finally step foot in Terrasen.
Yeah.
So you end Aelin's perspective by her first steps into Terrasen, and it's a very emotional moment, and
Yeah.
that's where Queen of Shadows ends for her. Now, well, and I guess because I'm like now to Manon, and now we're back into the like craziness. But
Yeah.
before we, I guess before we do that, what were your reactions to Aelin and Friends arc throughout Queen of Shadows? How did you kind of feel at the end of everything for Aelin?
I mean, I felt like there was a lot of growth for them as characters and in their relationship. And it was nice to see that after all that struggle and everything that they've been through, they were able to kind of like check off the list of things that they needed to do, free the
Mm-hmm.
magic, and now head on down to Terrasen.
Mm.
So it's like, wow, you're finally seeing that they accomplished what they needed to, and they were able to save and keep a good people around them in that
Mm.
process.
Yes, the to-do list was checked off. They had a big one.
Mm-hmm.
My to-do list puny compared to that. But they had some items on there, and they checked off a good number of them. So kudos to Team Aelin. So now that we're all feeling warm and fuzzy and like things kind of worked out, on to Manon and Elite, who are also going through it.
Yeah.
So zooming to the past and pre Obsidian Tower blow up and all these things, Duke Parrington, who we now know is actually Erewhon. Interesting. But at this time, Manon thinks it's Duke Parrington. We think it's Duke Parrington. So the Duke and Vernon Locken tell Manon to offer them another coven of Iron Teeth witches. And now, if you remember from last episode, Manon knows what they're doing to those witches. So now it's not just a decision, and I don't quite know what's happening. She knows full well what's going to happen to these witches if she hands over another coven.
Yeah.
And Duke and Vernon tell her, we want another coven, make them Blackbeaks this time. We're not going to accept anything but Blackbeaks. And Manon tries to hold a meeting where they're going to decide what they're going to do about it. And everyone in the room, and by decide, she means like, we're going to decide which coven goes to the Duke. And pretty much through their silence and kind of stoicism, they convey that like, no, we're not doing this. We're not
Yeah.
giving them another coven. And Astrid is the one who's saying it. She's the one laying into Manon about it and saying, how dare you ask us this? And it's about to come to a head. We don't quite know what's going to happen because there's been this power struggle between Manon and Astrid through this whole thing. But just as it's about to get wild, in comes Roland. If you remember from book, I think it was 1 or 2. It was either Throne of Glass or Crown of Midnight. Roland is Dorian's cousin who was working kind of with Dorian, but also they were kind of like, is he a spy for the king? We don't quite know. In the time since we last saw him, he was taken along with Caltaine, and a Valg prince was placed inside him. And the Valg prince inside him and Roland kind of together come in and they feast on the misery of the witches. So create chaos and just start feeding on misery. And it turns out through that event that witches with gold in their eyes were somewhat immune to the Valg mind magic, but witches without any gold in their eyes were totally taken over by it. And what's interesting is that Manon has completely gold eyes. There's not a fleck of anything but gold in her eyes. And the Valg inside of Roland is terrified of her. Manon starts, like, Astrid holds kind of the Roland down, and Manon starts kind of clawing at him and getting at him. And the Valg is absolute, like, get away from me, get away, like trying to scramble away from her. eventually they kill Roland, and what you discover is like Roland gets control for a second and is like, kill me right now.
Yeah.
So it's a sad, I think, moment where you realize like, oh, Roland is still in there. But they end up killing him, and they learn that the Valg is afraid of Manon. And it says something to the effect of like the eyes of the Valg kings. Like there's something about the gold in her eyes, or something that's inside of her that makes this Valg afraid of her. Before they can fully hash things out, before they can figure out what the hell just happened and what's going on there, Parrington tells them that they're going to pick up a prisoner from the king. If you remember from Aelin and Friends, that is Lysandra. They don't know this, but they're just being told they have to pick up a prisoner, and that the matron will be there. And so Manon hopes that when they get there, she'll be able to talk to her grandmother and tell her about all the things that have been happening, that the Yellow Legs witches are being tortured, that things are not as they seem, and she thinks that her grandmother is going to be a listening ear for that. And I'll tell you what, they get there, matron doesn't give a fuck about that.
She's like, and
yeah, quite literally. She's like, I got your like letters about the bad shit that's been happening. Do what they say. Like this, you're asking too many questions. What
her
the hell
grandma
are you doing?
Sucks.
Like, oh, yeah.
She's not baking cookies and knitting. She's not one of those grandmas.
Okay, I know. This is. What I'm about to say might sound sad, but it's not sad. Like, I don't have any of my grandparents alive, and I haven't for a long time. So I kind of don't know what it feels like to have like a grandma, you know, like, I don't know. Do you like what grandma's that feeling is like? But I imagine that it would suck to have this one. Like, I know this one sucks. I don't know much about grandmas, but I could tell this one would not be a good one. She's not like picking you up from school and stuff.
Yeah, no, she's abusing Manon. She's not offering any type of love or gentleness, for sure.
Yeah, that's what we in the business would call abuse. Well, that's what we would call abject violence against another human. So I think in some ways this is another turning point for Manon. She really thought that her grandmother was going to be like, oh my God, we have to save the witches. Yeah. She thought she was going to care.
Which is really surprising that her grandma would not have that type of alliance to the other witches, as like we see that Manon kind of had, instilled in her. So it's a little confusing what her grandma is like up to.
It is a little confusing regarding her motives. Interesting. Moving on now. So essentially, instead of supporting Manon, the matron berates her and slashes her across the face. And in the midst of that, Manon and Dorian have a little conversation, and like, I think it's like kind of sexy when she says, hello, Princeling, and he's like, hello, Witchling. Yes. And
I do like that.
Yeah. And what's interesting, as with Roland, when she gets near to Dorian, the Valg inside Dorian is like, get away from her. Get away from her. Oh my God, like, get out of here. And it gives Dorian just enough room to like come out and like be himself for a second. That's how Manon knows that
he's still in there.
He's in there. She brings it out of him. She's somehow immune to the Valg stuff, and she pushes the Valg to the back of Dorian's mind. And that's how she's able to alert Aelin that Dorian is in there. So they have a little talk, but then Aelin and friends start their rescue mission, and chaos erupts. And the way that they created a distraction was by kind of fucking with the wyverns. They don't hurt them in any way, but they just rile them up. And so they're like, what the fuck's going on with the wyverns? All of a sudden the prisoner's gone. Aelin and Manon fight. And as we've mentioned, now Manon owes Aelin a life debt. Before she goes back or before she kind of leaves the premises after the fight, she goes to the king of Adarlan and doesn't tell him about Aelin and the gang, though she could have. And she asks him about a weapon she saw in a cart that the king had. And the weapon inside was a series of sacred mirrors that were going to be used to amplify Shadowfire magic until it can like slaughter people en masse. And this is where we learn, or kind of the real fear sets in, I think, about what the king is about to do. We're not talking about like a war where like both sides are evenly matched and there's fighting back and forth and both sides accrue losses but one wins. The technology that the king is carrying is genocide level, absolute annihilation stuff. And again, Manon is still like, she's putting all of this together and it's getting more and more uncomfortable for her to like to
like be
sit
okay
by.
with it.
Yeah, to sit by and be a part of it. So Manon, through these events, through kind of getting slashed by her grandmother and seeing this weapon, she's holding on by a thread with trying to fix things with her grandmother. She kind of is like, but we can fix it, but we can fix it. Astrid steps in and she's like, you're coming with me. We got some shit to talk about. Manon's confused, but she's like, okay. So they go to a field outside of Morath, and Astrid tells her a story about how 70 years ago, Astrid had a human lover and got pregnant by that lover. Her baby was stillborn, and Manon's grandmother, in response to the stillborn baby, beat Astrid and branded the word unclean on her abdomen. And Astrid shows her the scars from that. Astrid tells her that the 13 have seen it. Some of the 13 have seen it. And they all, in different ways, either through the abuse that Astrid experienced or their own stories, have experienced her grandmother's cruelty, but they didn't want to hurt Manon with the knowledge. And this shifts things profoundly for Manon. She's in some ways been protected and insulated from all of this, and now she kind of sees things are starting to add up now that she's looking at it through Astrid's eyes. She, in that moment, reinstates Astrid as her second in command, and this is where she openly starts to question things in her own mind. Up until this point, a question would pop up and she'd kind of be like, shuffle it away. Now she's really starting to question things.
Yeah, and I feel like that scene is just so impactful and, important to touch on like that birth trauma that Astrid experienced, and there was a quote that I included here from when she was explaining that story. She was stillborn. I waited to hear that cry of triumph, but there was only silence. Silence. And then your grandmother struck me, beat me again and again. All I wanted to see my witchling, and she ordered them to have her burned instead. She refused to let me see her. I was a disgrace to every witch who had come before me. I was to blame for a defective witchling. I had dishonored the Blackbeaks. I had disappointed her. A stillborn was a witch's greatest sorrow and shame. And like you mentioned, she was also branded with the unclean on her stomach. And that just seems like such a cruel experience that she went through. Just like, also in like the real life scenario of like some people do experiencing like giving birth to a stillborn and having birth trauma and how traumatizing that experience is. And to see it, kind of explained in a book is just really like, wow. And like how cruel and unsupportive her grandmother is, and to even shame her and make her the reason why like the baby was a stillborn and dishonoring, and it's like that wasn't her fault. unfortunately it happens. And I know also, I feel like it's mentioned that like witches having babies was like a rare thing as well. So again, it's like, it is a great sorrow. And, obviously when someone experiences that, when, you're not able to hear your baby cry when you give birth. So that was such a moment, and definitely very, very impactful.
It's like a double trauma of
Yeah.
first the trauma of having your baby and having your baby be stillborn, and then the trauma of your grandmother or the Manon's grandmother berating her.
Yeah,
It's
and beating her. That's crazy.
yes. Well, and then added on top of that, having to keep it a secret from Manon all these years. It's like it's sort of trauma upon trauma here. And
Yeah.
I think this is the story that Manon needed to hear to basically disentangle some of these lies that she had been told about who she was, who her grandmother was.
Yeah.
This goes beyond discipline and whatever else, like these witch values. This is just abject cruelty. Like this is,
Yeah.
you went out of your way to be cruel when in human society, in the real world and in witch society, um having children and trying to get pregnant or being pregnant, all of those things are such profound experiences that there's enough going on without being berated
Yeah.
or somehow guilted about a bodily process so that where so little of the control is kind of in your hands, really.
And it's so surprising to see that even something that happened, like it's been 70 years since that happened,
Mm-hmm.
and Astrid had not told Manon about
Mm-hmm.
that at all, or Manon.
Mm-hmm.
And that I mean, I don't think it was given like a specific reason as to why, but probably because like she didn't feel like Manon would understand her or would probably take her grandmother's side like she always does. So,
I'm fear on Astron's part that it would drive a wedge. I also think they were trying to protect her. As much as Manon thinks she's leading and protecting the 13, they are very much protecting her. And
yeah.
so watching Astrid kind of own up to everything that's been going on in the background as Manon has been keeping in some ways a rosy view of who her grandmother is. So Manon and the 13 and Manon and Astrid are off learning mind-blowing things. They're fighting, they're doing all this stuff. Where is Elite? Right? Like so much is happening with Manon and Astrid and everybody. It begs the question, what is happening to Elite? And Elite is back in Morath, and she knows that a supply wagon is coming in, and she has been collecting things to escape on this supply wagon. She's been getting food and resources so that she can make an escape on this wagon. But Manon and the 13 are not there to protect her. And as she goes to get her things, Vernon is in her room and is like, "You're not going anywhere." And there's no one there to protect her or care. And not that Manon doesn't care, but she's just in other places thinking about other things.
Yeah.
As Vernon takes her to a dungeon and says, "I know that you're part witch. I know that you had, before magic was suppressed, I know that you have magic in your blood. So, because you are a mix of witch and magical blood, we think that you're going to make the most powerful match for a Valg breeder. Like, basically, they're going to breed a
Yeah.
lead for the blood that she has in her veins." And she fights as hard as she can. And also, she has an ankle that's twisted, and she's overwhelmed. Like, there's just no way for her to win. So Elite is kept in a dungeon again as all this stuff is unfolding with Manon and other places. And Vernon comes in and says, "I've got a special surprise for you. I'm going to give you to a guy named Cormac, who's got a Valg inside him, but who was an awful person even before the Valg part, and starts telling her all the horrible things that Cormac is going to do to her when he gives her over. And meanwhile, so Elid's falling into like despair because there's no one there. The 13 are gone. No one's there to help her or save her.
That must be so scary for her.
Oh, I can't even. The thought, just the thought that like nobody's coming for me. No one even knows I'm here. Nobody cares that I'm here.
That's sad.
It's heartbreaking. While Elid's in this sad place, in this hopeless place, Manon and Astrid repay the debt to Aelin by painting this Valg Princess inside her message. And once the magic is unleashed in Aderlin, so the obsidian clock tower is exploding somewhere else, but she feels it when magic is unleashed. She's like, all of a sudden she's like, holy shit, I'm stronger, I'm faster. I could feel my immortality set into place. So like they were aging at a human rate. Now she's like, I'm back, baby. And she can hear the wind singing. She's like, this is fucking awesome. We're back. And it also makes Elid's potential latent magic even more like enticing to Vernon, because Elid, if she's got magic in her blood, it is now would have been unleashed. So Manon goes with her painting mission. She comes back. It's almost like she like sits down for like all of 5 seconds. She's like, oh, okay, settle in. And then
right back up.
Yeah. She's sitting there and she's like, wait a second, where's Elid? And she realizes, because she smells it in the room, that Elid's scent is stale. That her scent is still there, but it's days old. And she realizes, holy shit, Vernon's taken her. So Manon goes on the warpath. She gets the 13 together and she's like, okay, we've got 3 dungeons to look for. Like they're charging through the path, the whole place looking for her. I thought it was a really sweet moment. There's a laundress, and I don't even know if we remember, if we're told her name. We might be, but I don't know. But she knows where Elid is, and she cares. She tells Manon like where Elid is, and I just thought that was a moment of like, Elid, there are people out here who care about you, even if it's not Manon. Like Manon and the 13 care about you, but like you've got regular people who care about you too. So the laundress,
she kind of like played on being a laundress in order to get into that whole mission thing. So I'm sure she built some connections with other laundresses.
Yes. Well, and I think in her mind, she thinks nobody cares about me. And it was a moment where I realized like, oh, maybe Elid doesn't realize kind of how cool she is and how much she means to people and the kind of connection she's been creating. So it was a small moment, but the laundress basically tells them to look in the dungeons, and so they fly down there. They're splitting up. They're looking in all the dungeons, and in Elid's perspective, all of a sudden, so the doors open and they've come to get her and take her to Cormac. She's hopeless. Manon's looking for her, but she doesn't know this. So she's hopeless. She's and these 4 guards are like sneering, and her like gown falls open and they laugh at her, and like it's this really like perturbing moment where and she
so dehumanizing too.
Exactly. They're treating her like a joke and like an object. And so she decides when they come in for her, she's been very hopeless, but she thinks, my mother, Marion, fought until the very end. I am not giving up until the very fucking end.
Yes, girl.
So she literally, she's like heart of a warrior. Like she's like, I'm not letting them I'm not letting them do this without fighting. So she's fighting for all she's worth. And that's why the gown falls open, because it's not it's like a flimsy gown. They're all sneering at her and grabbing at her. And like, she's
because
fighting.
her boobs are shown, you know?
Yes.
So.
Yeah. And they're like being gross. And she's fighting with all she can to get away from them and to keep from being implanted with one of these stones for breeding. And this is where Manon fucking pops up. Like, I just I loved reading this the third time because I knew what was going to happen. I was like, here she comes. Like, just wait a lead, give it a second. And Manon busts in there like a bat out of hell and starts killing. And now magic is free, so she's full power. So she's shredding through these dudes, and Elite's like, oh my god. And Astrid and Sorrel and Vesta show up, and they just start tearing shit apart.
Yeah,
and it's so cool, and justice is served. It's like, oh hell yes,
it's awesome.
ladies. Yes, it's like Manon is like Elite's just protector, and she's like, da, 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 da. So they kill they kill everybody. And who should roll up but Kaltain, interestingly enough. And Kaltain, you learn a couple of things about what's going on with Kaltain. And Manon figures it out. At some point, because you remember, she was kind of a zombie. Like, she was kind of like, at some point, Kaltain burned the Valg out from inside her. And
with her shadow fire.
And hid it from Erewhon, essentially. And she's been walking around under her own steam, waiting for the moment to fuck all this shit up. She's been lying in wait. And I don't know if it's Manon that says this about her or she says it about herself. She's like a wolf in waiting. Like, she's been perched in the darkness, waiting for a moment to just absolutely tear this fucking world apart. And so Kaltain rolls up and goes, I think it's about time for some of this to be absolutely torn to shreds. She takes what you remember in her arm, like the scar in her arm this whole time that's been hurting so much. It's a word key. She's had a word key sewn into her flesh.
It's crazy.
So she cuts it out of herself and she wraps it in a piece of cloak. That piece of cloak was Selena, i.e. Aylin's cloak, that she gave to Kaltain in book 2.
Yeah.
And she tells her to bring this, and Elite doesn't know it's a word key, but she says it's a key to unlock doors. So she alludes to it, but Elite doesn't totally understand the ramifications, but says, you can open any door with this key. Bring this to Selena Sardothian and no one else. Do not let anyone else have this except Selena. Because Kaltain doesn't know Selena is Aelin. Therefore, Elite doesn't know Selena is Aelin. Which is really interesting because Aelin, Elite's been looking for Aelin. So now Elite is looking for both Aelin and Selena, not realizing they're the same person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she gives her the word key, and she says, and they're like, come with us. Like, Elite's like, we could save you too. She's like, I'm past saving. I think without this word key, I'm about to die anyway after what they've done to my body. And so Kaltain and Elite switch gowns. So now, and Kaltain like musses her hair and covers herself with dirt. Now they look very similar. They're small, they're dark haired. So now they've switched positions, and now Elite looks like Kaltain from afar, and Kaltain looks like Elite. And what they do is Manon, Elite, and Kaltain says to them, get your asses out of here. Like, get out of here right fucking now, because I'm about to blow this shit up. So Manon says, fuck, okay. She grabs Elite, throws her over her shoulder, and starts running for the wyverns. She's like, get to the wyverns! And they haul ass, and just as Kaltain is about to blow everything out, they fly out of Morath. They like just make it. And Kaltain destroys a third of Morath, a third of the whole mountain complex.
That's
with her
crazy, yeah.
Shatterfire magic.
And I think it's so powerful in this moment seeing Kaltain, and obviously we've been dealing with her from the early on books and seeing kind of like her growth and her character kind of like going through so many things. And it was nice to see that she was able to give herself up to save a lead from that trauma that she would have experienced, with that weird guy. Because that would have been horrible for her. And Kaltain already probably feels like a shell of a person at this point, and everything that she's endured, there's no going back, So, but she, I feel like she made this decision to help save a lead and give her that possibility to not go through maybe some similar things that Kaltain went through. So,
yes,
yeah.
So, full disclosure, when we started this book series, I had to make a decision about how I was going to talk about Kaltain. Because the first time I read the book series, I hated Kaltain in the first books. Because if you remember, she's like scheming, vapid.
Yeah.
She's getting in the way of like Dorian and Selena's thing. And I think I fell into the trap that kind of Sarah J Maas set regarding Kaltain, which was, I was like, fuck this girl. Like you're an asshole. You're being mean. You're being conniving. Like, I had very little empathy for Kaltain when I first read them. And I learned a valuable lesson by the time, and I don't remember when my mind made the flip, because I kind of forgot about Kaltain. After she, like, things kind of leave Rifthold Castle, I forgot about her.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I saw, like, or was made to see the, like, what was happening to her, that I like, it was a big, I was like, oh, I'm the asshole. Like, I'm like, yeah, she's an asshole, like she was, but like, she's a young girl, and like, it was a huge moment for me literarily, because I learned that I learned not to sort of take it as like first blush, that like, even if a character acts this way toward the beginning, it doesn't mean that they deserve any of this. And number two, that I need to be able to see deeper to what's going on with them. So when we started, there was a piece of me that was like, should I play this like I did the first time I read it and be like, fuck this girl Kaltain? And I decided to just kind of play it deadpan, like to not really say my feelings about Kaltain at any given point, just to state kind of who she is. And by getting the chance to do that, I saw much earlier the ways that she was getting manipulated, and like once I could just kind of be objective and like take her side, kind of,
yeah,
I saw the ways that Sarah J Maas was laying the groundwork for Kaltain's later troubles, where when the first time I read it, it was like I felt my heart wrenched for her as soon as I realized that she was being abused, but I didn't realize it quite as early. And it was such a cool thing to be able to read it this time around from that perspective, and to see way earlier than I did the first time the ways that she was unfairly sort of placed in this situation, that she was being manipulated far before she ever was tracking that she was being manipulated.
Yeah, and I feel like my idea of Kaltain, I knew, like, I had a feeling that there was like already something more to her story, and because even when she was in the dungeons and things like that, like she always spoke in like kind of like phrases, or kind of like, there were things that she would say, like I remember, I can't remember which, maybe Throne of Glass, but where she would be like, I hear the wings or something like that. And it's like, that's how, I don't know, like I knew that there was something more to her story. And yeah, as we've seen throughout the other books, the things that she's been put through, and kind of just like all of that, I definitely didn't see this part coming of her doing that. But I mean, I think that's the whole point of a character arc. And the unexpected of a character like hers.
Yes. And I think it's a good example of Selena Aylin's like these random tugs toward kindness, right? Kaltain saves Aylin's cloak through everything she's been through. And she says, they didn't let me keep the whole cloak, but I got a piece of it. She kept a piece of that cloak because it was the one bit of kindness. Even Selena didn't really like her when she did it. Like, she gave her the cloak, but she was like, oh, she's kind of, she's not making any sense. Here's a cloak, girl. Like, to her, it wasn't,
because it was like when she was in the dungeons that she was like naked and all messed up.
Yeah. Well, and like shivering. She was cold. And Selena at the time had been in the dungeons for a little bit after she had tried to kill Kale. And so they had they had this cross paths moment. And then Selena later on brought her a cloak, and it wasn't that they were best friends. It wasn't like they knew each other super well, but in Kaltain's mind, it was the one thing that she could have, like, one thing that she could latch onto, one act of kindness that she could keep to herself as all these horrible things were happening to her. And by the time you get to the point where Kaltain's blowing up the Morath, I felt deeply about Kaltain, and it really, the first time I read it, I did a lot of introspection around my feelings about Kaltain. And this time around, it was, I think, powerful in a different way for me to be on her side kind of throughout the whole thing secretly. Like, again, I just played it. I was like, I'm giving you the facts. I'm not going to tell you, like, I don't know if you tracked it ever, but like, I never
you never really said much about her. So
I never gave an opinion about Kaltain. I never said I hate this girl. I never said I feel really bad for her. I never said any of that. I just said, here's what's happening with Kaltain. And coming from that perspective, it you could see, even at, like, there's toward the very beginning of these books, she starts to have headaches. Like, that was when she was like, and I could track these little moments where it was like, this is the downfall of Kaltain in slow motion. I'm watching it happen. Instead of being shocked by it, I'm now watching it happening in slow motion because I'm actually paying attention. It was just, I think Kaltain's trajectory is so interesting, and I think it's a representation of, and I think even at some point, Aelin or Selena says, like, I can't remember, or maybe it was about Nehemia. Aelin makes a comment about, like, if I had just spent a little bit more time, like, if I had just seen past a facade, and I think it's talking about Kaltain, but
I think so too.
Yeah. So I think I felt similarly to Aelin in that, like, if I had just seen through it a little bit and, like, dug deeper, what might I have felt about her?
And I did also want to touch on something, because as you were talking about that, it brought me to think of how impactful in real life situations small acts of kindness mean to people, and especially people who are going through either hard things in their lives, or you never know what someone's dealing with. One small act of kindness can take them one step back from going over the edge, or just brightening their day by something small. And it's we see that with Kaltain, where it's like, in that moment she literally held on to that piece of cloak because of how much it meant for her, and how much that she was able to hold on to that as, wow, someone actually did a kind thing, and now I'm repaying that kindness. So it really brought me to that, where, in real life, if you can do small acts of kindness, and be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, that can go a long way with just like helping a stranger have a better day.
And I think that's what, like, I don't know if you've ever gotten this question from anybody, but I've run into folks asking questions about, like, well, how do you work with someone who fill in the blank of like whatever bad thing people are thinking of. Like, how do you work with someone? I used to, not so much anymore, but I used to work with folks who have substance use disorders and folks who were or are incarcerated,
Mm.
and I'd get questions from people like, well, how do you work with someone who fill in the blank, like whatever thing they did, and the thing is, I think the superpower of counselors is that our job is to find empathy with anyone. Like,
Yeah.
I can't, I don't have every life experience. I haven't, folks will say, well, how can you possibly understand? And it's like, well, everyone's experience is unique, and I can't adopt your perspective totally. And I can find empathy with most anyone. Like, I can, everyone is deserving of empathy. Everyone is deserving of a moment to feel seen and heard and connect, to connect with another person. And that is part of our training, is to like, okay, if you have a hard time understanding a person's experience, what part of their experience can you empathize with? What part can you pull from and understand what it is that they're going through, even if you don't have all the other stuff? I can empathize with, so for example, like if someone uh is incarcerated because they've gotten a DUI or they've done something under the influence of a substance. I don't have that experience, but I do know what it feels like to have such strong emotions that I feel like I have to escape my own head for a bit.
Mm.
Or I do know what it feels like to be so scared that you have a knee jerk reaction, or you do something in the moment that you regret later. I can connect with that, and if I can do that, then I can just be there with you as a human, and try to find some common ground. So as counselors, essentially what we're being asked to do is to find empathy for folks whose experiences are wide ranging and different than ours, because that's a huge part of the work.
Yeah, and that's, you said it so perfectly, where it's like we're there to have empathy for a person who maybe has never felt empathy from others from what they've experienced,
Mm.
and just help them feel seen and understood and support them through their journey and what they've been through. But yeah, we definitely, we have a tough job for sure, because having empathy and holding space for our clients is a lot of the impactful work that we do with the relationship that we build with them and the trust in that. So yeah, I think that's why, at least I personally was always called a very sensitive person growing up. And I feel
Yeah.
like that is my strength, and that's how I do what
Mm.
I do.
Honestly, same. And it's so interesting that like in growing, people always say like, oh, you're so sensitive, as if it's a bad thing. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I am sensitive. I can feel the vibe of a room. Like, when something's up with someone, I can track it. And
Yeah.
instead of finding it as a burden or as something to be hidden or sort of tamped down, why not use it as a part of my skills in my profession, but also use it in my life and my world to like make me a more thoughtful and connected person.
Yeah. And the people who are criticizing the other people for being sensitive, how
Mm.
about maybe you learn some of those, like emotion skills, and being able to be okay that you are sensitive to certain things, or if something is uncomfortable for you, that you talk about it. Like, not
Mm.
every you shouldn't have to be okay with everything.
Mm.
And you speak up and you talk about your feelings. Like, that's definitely a strength, I feel.
Yeah, I love that. It's so, to all of our girlies and peoples out there who are getting called sensitive, you can make a whole career out of that if you want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it makes us better, just people and friends. And so, um,
Exactly. You
yeah,
want
I
friends
just
to care for you and to like really be
yeah.
able to be there for you. And how can you do that if you're not sensitive to what they have going on, or aren't aware of noticing like the details of like, okay, I know that Katie's a little off today. Let me ask her how she's
Mm.
doing.
Exactly. And how wonderful, like, I can't tell you how many times I've had folks say to me, like, I just feel really seen, or I feel really understood around you. And it's like, sensitive girly right here, like just using my skills. So yeah.
Yeah.
So shout out to all the sensitive people out there. Welcome to the club. Um, you can make good money being sensitive if you want to. Uh,
Yeah.
so anyway, uh, we Kaltain blows up a third of Morath. Manon, Alid, and the 13 just escaped. Like, it's like, it feels like a what is it? What's that guy that's known for explosions in movies? Is it Quentin Tarantino? Maybe not. There's
Oh, maybe.
the guy who does the Transformer movies. Uh,
Oh,
anyway,
Steven Spielberg? No.
no. It's not Christian Bale. That's an actor. There's a director who does
Tom
explosion stuff.
Cruise. He's in a lot of movies that like things blow up, right?
Yeah, that is true. No, it's a director. It's
Oh.
something Bay or something. I don't know.
Oh, Michael Bay.
Yes, Michael Bay.
Okay.
So we got there. So it's like a Transformers movie explosion sequence where like Morath blows up and like the fires exploding behind them as them and their
Yeah.
wyverns fly off into the distance. And they go to Oakwald, and Manon, they all land. Manon says to Alid, go to Terrason. That's where Aelin is. And that's where the crew is likely to be headed. And they say goodbye to one another. Manon has to go back to Morath. She can't leave her post. Even though she's like openly doubting. She's like, I can't just up and leave the witches. So Alid heads out into Oakwald north to go see Aelin, and Manon heads back to Morath, and that is where we leave our story. I'm curious with the Manon and Alid storyline if you had any sort of overarching reactions or thoughts based on their perspective.
So with Manon and Elite, it's nice to see that Manon treats Elite almost like a sister and
Mm.
protects her, especially because of that witch blood connection, and really kind of wants the best for her, at least in Manon's own way of saying that. So it was nice to see that their connection and their relationship throughout the book.
Yes, I love how protective Manon is of Alid. Like, she doesn't even want to admit it. It's kind
Yeah.
of the way in that she loves Abraxos. Like, he's such a softie, and she's like, "Stop it, you softie!" But like, she'll pet his nose too. Like, she's like a grumpy. She's grumpy big sister, and like, I love that for Alid, and I'm excited to see where their trajectories take them. So that leads us, now that we've done our plots and thoughts, to our teehee moments, but I think it might be a good time for a little break. You can listen to our theme music, so beautiful and cute, and when we come back, we'll go over our teehee moments and our therapy deep dive.
Yeah, see you soon.
Bye.
All right, so we are back, and now
Woo.
we are going to get into our teehee moments.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go through mine first because we know that I usually have less than Katie. So my first one is page 434. I kept thinking about how you might never know that I missed you with only an ocean between us. But if it was death separating us, I would find you. I don't care how many rules it would break, even if I had to get all 3 keys myself and open a gate, I would find you again, always.
Oh,
Beautiful
my God.
moment. Beautiful moment between Rowan and Aelin. I love that so much.
And it's very like, I'll burn down the world for you. Like, I'll
And I love
cross
that.
realms. Yeah. You'll find me even through death. Like, you won't even let death separate us. All right.
You'll
I'm
go
in.
to the underworld for me. I don't even know if the underworld exists for this book, but he would go there for me.
Yeah, well, and that's literally he's like, I don't give a shit about whatever's out there. I'm finding you, and I'm here for that. Like, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah. My next one is page 436. I want to take my time with you to learn every inch of you. And this apartment has very, very thin walls. I don't want to have an audience when I make you moan, Aylin.
Ooh.
Again, this was like kind of what we described a little earlier, where it's like, it's your apartment. Why does it matter? But they want to have some class. It's understandable.
It's fine. And I get like Adian is basically Aylin's brother, and like he's staying in the room over. There's a piece of that I understand and whatever, and like you want her to be unleashed or whatever, which I like, but like I might just say to Adian, like, hey Adian, you want to
go for a walk,
go out to dinner? Yeah, like why don't you go out to dinner with Kale and Nesrin or whoever, Lysandra maybe, I don't know. Take a walk.
Go out on the town. Go have a night.
Yeah.
You know?
Go have fun and come back later, if you know what I mean. Like, that's the kind of conversation I would be having. But they didn't do that. So that's on them.
But the sentiment and the feeling was there. So I dug it, you know. Next one is page 504. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. If he moved an inch, he would be on her, would take her in his arms, and begin learning just what made the air of fire really burn. I love that one.
Oh my god! Like the restrained, like if there you even breathe on me, I'm gonna go buck wild. Like, okay,
right,
sure,
yeah,
all right.
Love that. Page 526. Tell me that even if I lead us all to ruin, we'll burn in hell together. Wherever we go, we'll go together. Just once, I want to kiss you just once. Even when we're apart tomorrow, I'll be with you every step of the way and every step after, wherever that may be. Again, I love when things are like said in this way of like, at some point I'll find you, I'll always find you type of thing. I love that.
Yes.
My last one.
It's yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I feel like it's one of those, like, I see every part of you. Like, there's no mistake you could make that would make me walk away from you.
Right.
And I vibe with that a lot.
Yeah. And that we'll burn in hell together. Like, I love that.
Like, again, wherever I end up, you will be. So
I'm for dedication. It. And my last one is page 614. She'd lost track of how long they'd kiss for, how long she'd lose herself into him. But then she'd taken his hand and laid it on her breast, and he growled in a way that made her toes curl and her back arch.
Oh my. Girl taking control.
Scandalous.
I love scandalous. Scandal.
Lock her up. Put the A on her chest. We got a little saucy with that one for sure.
Yeah, Aylin. Now it's not just an arm brush. Now it's not just a brush of the arm or collarbone. we're going full chest, baby. Crazy. Yeah. Crazy.
So those are my teehees. I'd love to hear yours.
I love that so much. As always, I have too many and they're too long. So I'm going to be selective. But I do want to pick one moment that I mentioned earlier, and this is the longest quote I'll do, and I promise. But I love this on an emotional level and a physical level. I'll go through it and then I'll tell you kind of what's in my head. On page 436, it says, she kept her stare locked on his as she let go of his face and slowly, making sure he understood every step of the way, tilted her head back until her throat was arched and bared before him. Aylin, he breathed, not in reprimand or warning, but a plea. It sounded like a plea. He lowered his head to her exposed neck and hovered a hair's breadth away. She arched her neck further, a silent invitation. Rowan let out a soft groan and grazed his teeth along her skin. One bite, one movement was all it would take for him to rip out her throat. His elongated canines slid along her flesh gently, precisely. She clenched the sheets to keep from running her fingers down his bare back and drawing him closer. He braced one hand beside her head, his fingers twining in her hair. No one else, she whispered. I would never allow anyone else at my throat. The reason that I love this so much is because this is after they try to have that she tries to kiss him on the roof. And so I think she's moving slowly for him. Like, she's making sure that he's on board with every part of this. And she's telling him in that animalistic way, like, I am letting you be at my throat. And then I just like this because it's sexy when he growls and he drags his canines along any part of her. So there's like a sexy part of it to me, but then there's like a very emotional part of it that, like, she's showing him in the way that he can kind of follow and be on board with what vulnerability she's willing to show him. So
yeah,
that's a long one, but it gave
it's a good one.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
There's one. Hold on, let me see. On page 463, and this is between Manon and Dorian. And Manon says, but would you bleed red or black? And he says, I'll bleed whatever color you tell me to. Oh,
I did almost make that one of mine. That's a good one. I like that.
Oh my God. I just love, like, they have such a saucy moment, and I like it because Dorian gets to come out to play. Like, that's Dorian talking, not the Valg. That's Dorian. So it was just, I like that a lot. And then on 514, this is from Rowan's perspective. Aelin slumbered beside him, her breathing deep and even, yet again wearing one of his shirts. Some primal part of him snarled in satisfaction at the sight, at knowing she was covered in his scent. You're primal about it? Just me having your scent on you makes you feel primal?
So
I love to hear that. I love to hear that. And then 525, she took a step and the full scent of her desire hit him like a brick to the head, I think. He was going to rip that nightgown to shreds. He didn't care how spectacular it looked. He wanted bare skin.
You're going to rip my clothes to shreds?
To shreds. Like, you're not going to just rip it off. You're going to rip my clothes to shreds.
So then I won't have anything for after. So
like, then there will be nothing between me and you and whatever moment comes next.
Hopefully it happens, you know?
You're like, let's maybe make a move here at some point.
Not just like hours of kissing, you know?
Yeah. You know, we do love the kissing marathons, but
it's gotta lead to somewhere. What's the next step here, you know?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So there's a couple others, but I'm just gonna go for the last one, which again is more emotional than like saucy. But I really liked it. I just thought it was heartwarming. So on page 645, this is from Aelin's perspective. She says, and the smell of pine and snow. How had she never realized that Rowan's scent was of Terrasen, of home? Rowan came close enough to graze her shoulder and murmured, I feel as if I've been looking for this place my entire life.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
That low-key made me want to cry.
Dude, same. It's like he's her home. He's her home. And he has made statements throughout these books about how he wanders and never settles and is always looking for the next horizon. And now he's found his home too. It's just, it makes my heart pitter patter a little bit.
Yeah. And, you know, I love the scents that are mentioned. Pine and snow. Like, I wonder what that smells like in like a person. Like, that's like nice.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's lovely. So those were my teehees. More heartwarming than anything. And, YA, everyone. YA.
Yes. Now we will get into our therapy mind deep dive,
Yay! I'm
where
so excited.
if you've listened to part 1, we did go over Aylin's character arc and like her psychological analysis, and I felt like today we can talk about Manon, Rowan.
I really messed this up forever on that one.
I can't remember which one is which at this point. So Manon, Rowan, and Adian. So we're gonna kind of get into some of their characters. So with Manon Blackbeak, we see a birth of conscience in her. So she might be one of the most compelling psychological studies in this book, and the way her character just develops and changes. As the heir to the brutal Iron Teeth witches, she was raised in a culture that glorifies violence, emotional suppression, and blind obedience. But in this book, Manon starts to question everything, including herself. So, some of the psychological themes that we see in her are cognitive dissonance. So, Manon experiences internal conflict between what she was taught, which was ruthlessness and dominance, and what she feels, empathy and doubt. So, watching the treatment of the Croken witches, the Yellowlegs, and the enslaved girls at Morath, she can no longer pretend loyalty means righteousness, because clearly, you have to see that what's happening to them is wrong and, just not okay at all. So then we also see an emotional awakening where here we have a lead. She becomes a catalyst for Manon's emotional growth. So with protecting a lead, it's one of Manon's first truly autonomous, compassionate acts. And it's something that I'm sure she feels conflicted about. But she ultimately does her best to protect her. Repressed identity. So Manon's arc is about the slow unmasking of her true self, kind of erasing maybe some of those things that she learned from her grandmother and kind of like of their whole witch clan. And in many ways, she's a mirror to Aylin, both women navigating inherited power structures and redefining what strength looks like. So, that's why I feel like I love Manon and her character, and definitely just the whole witch lore too. I definitely was into that. And Manon's psychological arc is a story of reclamation, not just of power, but of feeling, which is also very powerful, to feel things and to have empathy, as we've talked about through and through and many times throughout our books. Now we get into Rowan. So he's a survivor of grief and bonded trauma. So he's often seen as very stoic, battle-hardened Fey warrior. But in this book, he kind of peels back some of those layers to show like an individual who's been traumatized and emotionally complex, by, losing his mate previously and kind of just everything he's had to deal with. So some of the psychological themes are complicated grief. So the loss of his mate, Lyria, still haunts him, or it comes up every now and then. His grief is laced with guilt and self-blame, particularly for surviving her. And that's something that comes up sometimes when individuals lose someone in their life and kind of feel like, why did that happen to them? But I'm still here. So they can go through that motion. And it's really difficult. That grief influences how he approaches Aylin with caution, maybe protectiveness, and eventually, like, he does have vulnerability and kind of tells her how he feels. Then we have maybe some trauma bonding happening. Rowan and Aylin connect not just romantically, but through shared trauma. Both have lost people, been enslaved, and carry immense emotional weight. Their bond becomes a healing mechanism, but it's not instant. Rowan doesn't save Aelin, they grow together. And, in this scenario, I feel like versus maybe what people talk about in like social media about trauma bonding, a lot of people see it like kind of in a negative light and it brings out maybe like the worst in people. But at least in this situation in the book, we see that they grow together and they share their experiences and are able to connect from what they've experienced. Emotional regulation, which I love that Rowan brings in this piece of grounding strategies, especially through sensory. So with scent, we're always mentioning like his scent and what he smells and all of this. So with scent, touch, and breathing, which are surprisingly aligned with trauma informed therapy. And that's how we help people feel grounded and things like that. He helps Aelin regulate her rage without suppressing it. So Rowan's arc shows us that healing doesn't mean becoming emotionless. It means learning to feel safely again. So again, everyone's kind of like on a feeling journey here.
I like that you bring up both Manon and Rowan in sort of the like, what do we do with emotions camp? And I think it's really interesting to watch. Like, Manon was told that she could just never have emotions, like she just wasn't born for it. And so she when she has an emotion toward the beginning of these books, she doesn't even know what it is. She's like, I feel a stirring in my chest. Weird. And can't even name it. Whereas Rowan, I feel like, he's had such high emotion that he just shoves it down. And regardless of what their journeys have been around emotion, it leads them both to the same place, which is you're just you're just shoving these emotions away and down and refusing to acknowledge them, and it's coming out in all these ways. And I think both of them at the top of Queen of Shadows and then through to this second half have started to learn that you can't do that. And I think Rowan learned that a bit in Air of Fire as well. But that element of learning to exist and feel emotions, like I can feel emotions and still thrive and still go about my relationships, such an important lesson for both of them.
Yeah. And yeah, definitely it's nice to see kind of them go through that experience and kind of redefine what their feelings. And it's funny when you mentioned that Manon can't even like name what feeling she has, and that's something that we help our clients learn, that process of naming feelings, because maybe like for some people they just don't know how they feel. So that's when we bring out the feeling wheel and have them see which feelings they connect to the most, because that is probably kind of the baby steps to getting to like express yourself, is knowing what you're feeling in order to express that. So
I was just going to say,
no, go ahead.
Sometimes I feel like people like misascribe emotions too, where it's like they'll be like, well, I'm angry, and it's like, well, yeah, and we've talked about the anger iceberg, but like there's sometimes you can have multiple things going on, or you can have something underlying something else. So I love when you bring up the feelings wheel, because it's like that's how we get to delve in and really discover what's going on.
Yeah. And now we will discuss Adian Ash River. So we have some loyalty, longing, and emotional armor that we see in him. So Adian is the loyal cousin and the general who has been fighting for a queen he hasn't seen in years. His identity is deeply tied to his role as a protector. And in this book, it explores what happens when that protector factor finally, like when the protector finally meets who he's been living for and trying to protect. So some of the psychological themes we see in him: abandonment and reconnection. So Adian's reunion with Aelin isn't all joy. It's a little bit complicated. He feels sidelined and replaced by Rowan. So as we've seen, like they kind of have their little male dominance situation happen, and he questions his place in her life. So this reflects an attachment insecurity, a common trauma response to long-term separation or abandonment. Then we have masculine vulnerability. So Adian, we see him as like the classic stoic warrior type, but the book lets him feel the jealousy, the grief, and devotion, and even tenderness. So his relationship with Lysandra begins to soften those edges a bit. And then we have loyalty versus autonomy. So he's always lived for a cause, a queen, and a kingdom. Now he has to start living for himself too. So we saw him have a hard time dealing with the blood bond situation. And it was almost as if it was connected with his self-worth and kind of like everything he was kind of striving for. So with his arc, it's about redefining that self-worth, not just through service, but through relationship and trust, where, even if he didn't get that first blood bond, doesn't mean that he's not part of, the kingdom and the court and still a person who matters, So Adian reminds us that even the strongest fighters are still human, and that loyalty without communication can become a burden. So
yeah, I like the that we catch Adian sort of in transition with his identity. Like he's had to be the general of the Bane and Aderlin's whore and all these things for so long that you can see, like, we always talk about Aylin's swaggering like Selena persona, but Adian also has had to adopt personas like this swaggering, and they have a similar swagger, like a swaggering general persona. So it's nice to see him soften up a little bit.
Yeah, and some of the mental health themes that we see, through all of these characters, especially is just that trauma recovery, that it's not linear. And we see that all of these characters go through it in different ways. So Aylin, Manon, Rowan, Adian, and Lysandra, they're all survivors of what they've been through. Some of war, some of slavery, some of emotional abuse, and their healing doesn't happen in neat ways, and we see them kind of either react in certain ways and things like that. They lash out, they pull away, fall apart, and yet they're able to move forward and come together. So, and we see that, as we've talked about with the other character analysis, that emotional expression is a strength. So from Manon's first tear in that kind of obedience that she's known, to Adian's heartbreak, to Rowan's quiet gentleness. So this book is able to kind of reject the idea that strength is stoicism. Instead, it redefines that strength is the ability to feel and act with intention. So it's just really powerful to be able to feel and be able to express that. And power isn't healing, but choices. So when magic returns, we're able to see things come back together, thrones rise, enemies fall. But, obviously there's still some things kind of luring in the future books. But it's the choices that the characters make that define their recovery, kind of choosing forgiveness, choosing restraint, and choosing love.
Yeah. And which I think is going to be key because so many of these characters are power players. Like, if you think about the nature of Dorian's magic, he has unrestrained magic, just pure power. And if there isn't a sense of processing or like choosing community in some way, I think that could be very dangerous. So it's heartening at the end of this book to watch them, choose each other and be there for one another, because it speaks to the fact that they can hold on to this power but not totally lose themselves in it.
So, that was our kind of therapy deep dive. And now we get into some future thoughts and theories.
Yes.
Which will pretty much be from me.
I was gonna say, I feel like because in the last episode we didn't get to do the Yarlin, where is this headed check-in because it's halfway through the book. So I am like jonesing for a Yarlin, where do you think this is headed moment. What are your thoughts for Empire of Storms?
So, I'm interested in seeing like where the war with Parrington will come, or like what's happening with that. I'm interested in seeing if Manon joins forces with Aelin and they're able to kind of fight together versus the 13 on Parrington's side.
Oh, so you think Manon's gonna join Aelin, but the 13's gonna stay with Parrington / Erewhon and like in Morath?
No, I think Manon and the 13 will go and fight with Aelin.
Oh, okay.
And maybe
so
defy
they're gonna
kind of the grandmother.
Oh, okay. All right. I like that.
And even just talking about the grandmother, need to know what's up with her. Does she have a Valg in her? Does she have golden eyes? I need to know a little bit more about what's going on with her because that seems to be up in the air.
Okay. I like this.
I am looking to see more of Dorian and Aelin's magic working together and see how they are able to expand on that. Maybe use that as like ultimate power to save the world.
Okay, so you think they're gonna do like they did on the bridge and like join hands or something and save the world with their magic?
I would think they would want to recreate something like that, or at least use their magic again together.
Okay. I love this. I love to see it.
And my last kind of theory, again, remember in these past books, I've thought about Sam. It doesn't seem like he's dead. That's my theory. I wrote down here a quote in page 355 where this conversation was Aelin and Arabin. And what about Sam? Sam was murdered by a sadist whom my useless bodyguard got into his head to kill. You know I couldn't allow that to go unpunished, not when we need the new crime lord to continue working with us. Truth and lies, lies and truth. So I have a feeling that Sam is alive, especially after this quote.
Okay.
Because the way that it's aligned, it could be aligned that the truth part was like the lie part is connected with like Sam was murdered.
Okay. So if he is alive, what would that mean for Aelin and Rowan? Because at the end of the last book, you were like, Aelin and Sam are endgame if Sam's alive. So who's endgame?
I can see how Aelin and Rowan are going to ultimately be kind of like, they have the blood bond. So I don't know if that adds an element to like that they have to kind of be, but they're not mates. So, it's confusing. I don't know if Sam's going to come up maybe at the end being stowed away somewhere. TBH, right now I'm just going to keep going with Aelin and Rowan because it's what makes sense until Sam shows up in the picture if he does.
So at this point, if you had to pick, it's like Rowan and Aelin got a thing going, but like you think it would get more complicated if Sam rolled up.
Yeah, for sure it'd be complicated, and I don't know kind of what will happen with already the connection that Aelin has with Rowan. So those are my future thoughts and theories.
Your face is like, you're like, I don't know which way to go on this. Like I could see the cogs turning.
Yeah. So those are my future thoughts and theories. I might be proven wrong, but hey, I usually can kind of clock what's happening next in a book sometimes or in a movie.
Yeah.
So
well, and there's only one way to find out, and that is for us to keep going, y'all to keep listening to find out, is Sam alive? Are Rowan and Aelin meant to be endgame? Do Dorian and Aelin combine their powers into a mega thing? And that and much more to be seen in our next episode. So that leads us into our final remarks and our shout outs. First and foremost, if any of today's topics were triggering or upsetting, please make sure to seek out individualized mental health treatment. And remember that this podcast is for fun. It's based on our opinions and experiences, and it should not be used for diagnosing, assessing, or treating mental health conditions. Our next episode will be Empire of Storms Part 1, because remember, we're doing these in 2 parts because there's just too much to try to go through all at once. And that is going to be released on October 8th. If you'd like to support us or interact with us, please make sure to subscribe and rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Follow us on Instagram at fanfablespod. Email us at fanfablespod@gmail.com. And we have merch. If you want merch,
that I'm currently wearing.
Yarla's repping today. She is repping the merch. It is of good quality. It is soft. Yarlin texted. It was like, "Oh, do you want to match our merch today?" Mine's already in the dirty laundry. I have already worn it. So that's how much we love them. But please make sure, if you want to be repping some Fan Fables merch, that you go to the link tree in our bio on Instagram. There you'll see our Etsy page, and you can get yourself a little bit of merch. And I think that's it. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you soon.
See you. Bye.
Bye.